Welcome back, everybody. Let's talk about livestock. So, everybody has their own perspective on livestock. What livestock should you get first? What breeds of livestock should you get? I think these are important questions to talk about, and they're important conversation to have because what I feel like a lot of people don't realize, and we definitely see this in the vegan carnivore debate when we're talking about diets, people are completely oblivious that different breeds have different nutritional values, right? Not all chickens are the same. Not all pigs are the same. Not all cows are the same. Not all ducks are the same. Not all sheep are the same. And I find a lot of times people don't really realize that paradigm until they actually get involved in agriculture and they realize, oh shit, not every animal is the same. So I think that that's great that we're actually looking at this from a nuanced perspective. Especially people on the carnivore diet, they don't seem to understand this. If you buy your food at the grocery store, chances are this is probably a foreign concept to you. Different breeds of animal are going to have different nutrient contents. And that's something that, like I said, a lot of people don't realize. So when you're looking at this, which breed should I choose? There's a lot of different things that come into factor. Not just, the hardiness of an animal, but what the purpose of that animal is. And I think it's important to realize that before you can choose, or before you should choose what type of livestock you should get, you should ask yourself so you should have the answer, but you should ask yourself a very simple question. What kind of prepper, what kind of homesteader, what kind of farmer am I wanting to be? Okay, because there's a lot of people out there that has this list of best beginner livestock, or you should get this, this, and this. I think it's complete bullshit. I think it's 110% bullshit, to be 100% honest with you. Not everybody's in the same place. Not everybody's going the same place. And so I think the idea that everybody should start off with rabbits, then chickens, then this and that, like I said, I think it's all bullshit. Now, are there some livestock animals that are easier to raise than others? Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you should just go with a beginner type livestock animal just because, somebody told you to. You should really go about it based upon what your ideology is and what your goals and what you wish to accomplish. I know that's not popular to say. I know that goes against every norm that you've probably heard thus far, but I'm going to antiquate everything for you so that you understand where I'm coming from and it makes sense. So let's start off with some examples. So take my homestead, for example. We here do everything from a permaculture lens. We care very much about permaculture here, and we care very much about sustainability. That is by the lens that we do everything from. Now, with that being said, there are other types of preppers, homesteaders, and farmers out there. There are some people that look at things strictly from a feed versus cost over time ratio, right? So how much feed does it take to get an animal to a certain size? So feed weight conversions, and then over time, how much time does it take to get to the desired size, length, weight? And so in order to do that, there's a couple things you have to take into consideration. Feed cost, what type of feed, how long that you're going to have to feed that feed, and all that goes into, and if you're doing everything correctly, you're doing everything scientifically, into a very large spreadsheet or in a way that can be antiquated and mathematically calculated. That's great, and if you're wanting to get all the meat that you need, all the chicken meat you need in a very short time for the year, that is a great way to do it, right? You can go out, buy some Texas Rangers or some GMO Cornish crosses. You put them in a barn. Let's say you buy a couple dozen of them. You put them in a barn. You give them water. You feed them. You keep them warm. And guess what? 8 weeks, you have 5-pound birds, right? And you can dispatch however many 5-pound birds you have. It can be very cost effective. It can be very quick. And you'll get the desired results pretty quickly. The problem from a sustainability concept is it requires a lot of inputs that you're assuming are going to be there. And I think in the last 2 years, all my assumptions based upon that model have come to fruition. Especially at this point, and I'll be honest with you, my confirmation biases are so strong when it comes to permaculture sustainability. I mean, I can't imagine doing things that way at this point. Because literally, right now, I'm literally the only game in town when it comes to, chickens, ducks right now. Chickens, ducks, rabbits. I mean, you're just not finding them anywhere. And so that is a great way to go about it, given that all the factors and all the inputs are there at an affordable price and readily accessible. We literally have none of those right now, and we're seeing that nationwide. So that is a great way to do it if you have the inputs and you have everything down mathematically. Now for me, it's different. All of my infrastructure is here. I incubate my own eggs. I let my birds on pasture. And for me, to get the same size bird, it takes about 16 weeks. So in 16 weeks versus 8 weeks. So I have to let them go for twice as long. But they're scratching, they're foraging. Overall, I use less feed input, but it takes time. But they, like I said, I have a sustainable animal there. So that is a very sustainable product. So given that you have two totally different thought processes on and ideologies on preparedness, homesteading, farming, two different animals. If you're just wanting max weight at the quickest means necessary, GMO Cornish cross chicken. If you're wanting something sustainable, Marion Sussex crosses. Now, what I have done is I've taken my Marion Sussex crosses and I had introduced non-GMO Cornish crosses into my breeding program, and now I'm getting a bigger, more resilient bird. So, as you go on with the process, there are different hybrids and there's different things you can do to overall reach your goals. So you really have to figure out what's good for you. Are you going to waste the time that I have to get that set up, or are you just going to go for most bang for your buck when it comes to a feed conversion table? Again, you have to decide what works best for you. Now let's talk about another example. So let's talk about sheep now for a second. If we're talking about sheep in regards to most bang for your buck, as far as the size you get in a short amount of time, you'll probably want to go with a commercial breed of sheep, whether these be Merinos, Suffolk, or Hampshire sheep. They are used commercially because they get relatively large in a relatively short time. Now, with that being said, there are inputs you're going to have to put in. Feed costs, because you can't just pasture raise them. So you have feed costs you have to look at. They're not very parasite resistant, so you have to look at, worming and other types of parasite applications you'll have to do as preventative measure. And if they catch some kind of parasite, you'll have to take care of those. Then you have to look at the cost of shearing, because they are known for their fiber as well. And so these are all things that you have to take into consideration if you're deciding to go with a commercial breed of sheep. Now here we breed and we manage the Coton and St. Croix crosses. Now they're a great hair sheep that is known for its hardness and can be 100% fed off pasture. They are a pasture sustainable animal. The Cotonans are actually bred for power lines and other areas that are hard to reach that they could use, that industry could use to keep bushes and grasses down. There have been numerous of comparisons that people even like them better than goats, because number one, they don't try fences. Number two, they eat everything that goats will eat as well. So when you're looking at wanting to get into livestock, those are just different things to think about. While my sheep may not get as big as a Suffolk, a Merino, or a Hampshire sheep, I can feed them 100% free, 100% on pasture, have no parasite worries or concerns, and I don't have to shear them. For me, that's an ultimate win. Why would I go with anything else from a sustainability model? But again, you have to figure out what ideology best supports what you're trying to do as a prepper, as a homesteader. So if the idea is I want just maximum meat returns and you don't really care about input costs, then yeah, go with a commercial breed sheep. You'll get large amounts of meat back. You'll get wool back. Yeah, but you'll have to feed them you'll have to do some feed conversions. You'll have to do some conversions as far as medication too, because they're going to need to be medicated. And then you're going to have to figure out the inputs for shearing them as well. Me personally, I don't want to deal with any of that headache. So I rather go with a sheep that can feed me and my family, be raised 100% sustainably, is a good mother, and highly parasite resistant. So ultimately, you're going to have to decide what makes the most sense for you where you're at. Like I said, I've had lots of conversations with people recently that have asked me a lot of good questions about my livestock that I have here, and they really ask me, well, why this breed of chicken, or why this breed of duck, or why this breed of sheep, or why this breed of rabbit. And like I said, for me, it really all comes down to my sustainability bias. So, my permaculture bias, like I've already aforementioned here, is why I go with the animals that I go with. And I realize that I see a lot of people that get into livestock and they always go for the commercial breeds because there's a lot of information out on them and they're just looking for, what they believe will be maximum returns. But a lot of times, if you don't know exactly everything that you're inputting, you're actually at a deficit. I can't tell you how many people that I know that raise hair sheep now because they didn't realize all the inputs that they needed to do with the traditional commercial sheep, right? I know lots of people that had good sized flocks of commercial sheep, Hampshire, Suffolk sheep, that ultimately they all died from parasites because once they get parasites, they're very hard to get rid of. And so as far as flock management goes, I've seen people lose it all because of that. So for me, like I said, the most important thing that I can do is set myself up for success, and I do that through sustainability. Now, with that being said, you have to decide what works best for you guys. So I highly encourage you guys, just do your research and realize, what breeds of animals work best for you and what ultimately are you trying to accomplish. Because once you figure out what animal you want, for example, between, if you're trying to choose between chicken, ducks, and quail, then figure out what breed of those that you want to go with. Same thing with sheep and goats, right? Some people are like either or. They don't know if they want to do sheep. They don't know if they want to do goats. And then once they decide on a type of animal, then they have to look and investigate into the breeds of it. So there's a lot of nuance here. So I encourage you guys, do your research. Like I said, I'm never going to be the one that advocate start with this, then go to that, then go to that. I think that's bullshit. I don't think that that's a healthy way to look at things. I think the most sustainable way to look at this issue is to really understand what's your ideology, how do you want to prepare, how do you want to farm, and then find animals that complement that ideology that you have, that complement, the goals and accomplishments that you wish to accomplish. So I would say that's the best advice I can give you guys. I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. As always, guys, long live